So if we're looking at angles that are greater than 360 degrees, traditionally when we think about, our geometry and our shapes, we tend to stop at most of the time 180, even 360. We know that we can have degrees bigger, but how do we deal with this? Well, we think about these things in terms of a rotation. So think about where do we end up as we rotate around. So if we think about, you know, we think about our circle. Okay, we start off at 0 degrees. So we'll say, okay, so 0 degrees or 0 radians. If we take one trip around, we have made it to 360. So notice that the point is still here. We're still on this, we're still aimed over here, right? So I mean, if you think about it, it's like, if you jump in the air and you do 360-degree spin, you're still facing the same way. So your relation to the world hasn't changed. This is really important for us because the sine, cosine, and tangent are similar, or they are the same in each of these places. Even though these angles have grown. So one trip around has given me 360 degrees. Well, I could do that again. And then each time around I'm adding 360. So this becomes 720 degrees. This becomes, for radians, it's 2 pi moves to 4 pi. Okay? And so we keep doing this. We could do this again. We become now 100 or 1080 degrees. This could become 6 pi. And this could go on and on and on forever and ever and ever. Right? We can keep spinning and keep going. So why is this important? Well, we learned the unit circle. The unit circle only has values that are up to 2 pi and 360 degrees. Right? It doesn't include anything beyond that. But logically, we know that if all that's happening is that we're repeating values consistently, we can backtrack and get back to where we want. So, while I may not know that what the cosine of 1080 is, I may not know that. That's not on the unit circle. Well, if I know 1080, well, hey, that's a really large number. I know that if I go back 360 degrees, it's the same cosine. So that's 720. Well, that's still too big. When I go backwards, and we say, oh, that's 360 degrees. Well, wait a second. I know 360. The cosine for that is 1, right? You could even have gone back one more and figured that out too. But so the way that we go about these problems is that if we have an angle that is beyond 360 degrees, we can subtract 360 degrees from it to get to what they call a coterminal angle, or an angle that ends in the same place. So like it stops at the same point, and that's going to have the same sine and cosine. Now, if you're dealing with radians, obviously, you would go backwards 2 pi. And that becomes a little different because you're dealing with fractions, but we're going to have to do that. So buck up for that, guys.